Okay, this is the HydroHeart system that we're including in the cabinets. We're going to be including a lot of data on them shortly, but we're doing a quick introductory video just to give you an idea of what came with your system and how it works and how it's better than the previous system. In the previous system we had a complete tub where all the plants grew into one reservoir. The problem was if a plant died, it was tough to get the roots untangled from other plants. The foggers always had issues where the discs were dying after as little as 30 or 60 days, depending on the water quality. The foggers would also, as the roots grew, get tangled and get lifted out of the water, and it would cause issues with that. There was also a float valve system that if the roots got tangled in it, it would cause issues with the float valve. And it goes on and on from there. There was algae at the top of the net pots because it was a top feed drip system instead of being a deep water culture system. And with that, you got algae and issues on the top of your organic growing cubes. So this system is to overcome that and countless other problems that people are having and really upgrade to a proper injection molded, high quality system. With this unit here, everything is modular. So you can actually, with the cool cab or any of the larger units, we're including 8 sites with it. In the previous system we had 14 sites, but they were much closer together, and most people weren't even using all 14, they were only using a small portion of it. With this system it spreads them out so your plants have less crowding and you actually get more out of each plant, grow little larger plants for each site instead of having a bunch of ones that were real tight and having issues. With this system, the way that it works is quite simply, there is a water pump in here that pumps water constantly through this system here across the bottom. So water comes through the tubes, flows up through each site, and then is ultimately recycled, and that helps oxygenate the system and distribute the fertilizer within the water. The second part of it, there's actually an air pump as part of this control module, and there's a little button on the side that goes up and down which will turn it on and off, which you can hear when you actually plug it in. It'll vibrate. And right here there's a little plug for a DC power supply which plugs right in there, and that's the only power you need for the entire system. It's 12 volt DC, so there's no risk of electrocution or anything of the sort. We worked specifically with low voltage pumps, low voltage everything to make sure it was extremely safe. So that first water pump circulates the water. The air pump actually pumps air through these yellow air lines to each site. That helps oxygenate the water as well. We've done tests with dissolved oxygen meters and we've done flow charts. Basically, with this system, you can go up to 20 plant sites. Of course, with the cool cab, it's only 8. And the dissolved oxygen levels are above the acceptable line in temperatures up to about 85 degrees. So if you're above 85 degrees for your water, then it's going to start to get in that red zone. But for the most part, as long as your water temp isn't extremely hot, you should be just fine. Now, if you look at actually each bubbler that we have for each unit, you'll notice it doesn't look like a typical air stone. The reason being, when you're dealing with air stones, they tend to, again, gum up, get solids and garbage on them, and you have to replace them all the time, which is a pain. Now, these air bubblers work extremely well. Again, we tested it with dissolved oxygen meters, and they last forever. These things never gum up. So these are a great option to have instead of the lower quality air stones. So in here, we're going to fill each net pot the same as we used to with the old system with the red clay pellets, the hydrotin, and you either put a clone plant with its roots at the bottom, surround it with the red clay pellets until it's level with the top, or you can take the organic squishy plug, put it down inside, surround it with the red clay pellets until it's flush with the top, and plant your seed in there and it'll germinate. Now, in this system, there's an automatic float valve switch in here, and that float valve keeps the water level perfectly at about this height on the net pot. Now what that does is when you have your organic cube in here, it keeps it moist, so that way it doesn't dry out. The bubbler actually bubbles the water up, and it helps keep that moist as well. So you don't need to worry about your water height because it's always going to be ideal. Now that float valve is going to compensate for evaporation. It'll prevent your fertilizer from concentrating. It'll prevent your pH from getting drastically out of balance by, again, having your water evaporate or be sucked up by the plants. So having that do it all automatically is really wonderful as well. Now the way that works with the automatic float valve is that it actually, there's another water pump that's hooked up into this whole system, and that water pump actually sits behind the unit in a backup reservoir that can be a 5-gallon bucket. We actually include a 5-gallon collapsible jug that the water pump drops right into. And this tube that you can see here. Again, we're just kind of getting it ready to pack up, but the water pump will, as soon as that float valve goes down below a certain point, it'll automatically turn that water pump on and pump water into this main controller in microbursts to keep it at the ideal level the entire time, so you don't have to worry about it. As a matter of fact, to fill the system, when you first get it and it looks like this, you just fill that backup reservoir with 5 gallons of water, and then you basically turn it on and let it pump itself full. It'll automatically fill itself up to the right level. You don't have to worry about doing anything with it. It's very simple and easy. And then when you get to the point where you want to do a water change and you go, well, what do? I want to do a water change. There's actually multiple options with that. The water that's normally pumping through this blue tube, you can basically take, and we'll give you an extra piece of tube that'll come with it, and you can disconnect it like so and just keep this blue piece here above the water line so that it doesn't drain. And you basically are going to take that blue tube and put it right into a 5-gallon bucket, and it'll empty itself in a period of a couple minutes. So that's why we have everything with quick disconnects and this special latex tubing that's real soft and pliable so it doesn't kink up. One of the problems we have with the harder tubing is it kinks and it causes all kinds of issues. This is all latex tubing that works really well to prevent those kind of problems. With this system too, we also have built-in trellises where the plants can actually grow up, and they're supported by a trellis that goes basically vertically for each plant site. Now what that does is it holds your plant together and prevents it from falling over, from collapsing. And in 1 second I'm going to screw some in and show you actually what it looks like. Okay, the next part we're going to talk about here is how to build the trellis system. Now on each of these 12-inch rods, they're both threaded and they have a ball and joint connector. Now the reason for that is because they thread into the top of the plant site cap, module, whatever you want to call it. Call it the plant site cap here. But basically these screw in like so, and I'm not going to take the time to go real crazy with it, but they, they're nice and easily threaded right in place. And then after that, you can go, if your plant is, say, yay tall, you can put on this connector cap at the top. And this is a ball and joint system. You can see it actually connects right into the top like so of each one of these same rods. And now we have a 1-foot tall trellis. Now we can take it a step further if we want, and with the Cool Cab it comes with actually the equipment for a 2-foot trellis for each plant site. And we have these little connectors that again screw in place. We try to make this modular and easy, so if you have a piece for one, it can serve several purposes. But basically this is going to be the same thing. These things screw on, you put another rod on top, and then the cap goes on top of that. Now you don't want to go too much higher than 2 feet tall, because if your plant is even 3 or 4 feet tall, 2 foot is going to be enough to hold the majority of the plant at the base and keep it from falling over or having any kind of problem. The other thing I want to mention too, if you look at each site, you'll notice that there's connecting rods in between each one. Now these connecting rods are all ball and joint connectors, so they snap right in place. So we have 2.5 inches in the middle, or I'm sorry, 6 inches across the middle and 2.5 inches along the sides. If at some point you ever want to take this out of your grow box for any reason, you can actually take these 12-inch rods and go 12 inches apart from module to module and space them out further, or you could use the 6-inchers and bring them in closer, or you could even take this 12-inch rod, put the connector in it, and then add another 12-inch rod and go 2 foot across from the space from one plant to another if you're growing gigantic plants. Now for that, the only thing you need to do is get more of the blue tubing here, which we sell excess tubing, and when we make the official kits, we'll have a long line of tubing where you can cut it any way you want. But that's pretty much it. Your plant's roots are going to grow in this main body. There will be a little bit of roots that will go from site to site, but we haven't seen any instances where in a typical cycle that lasts a few months, say 4 or 5 months, where it's been thick enough to stop the water flow or back it up. Down the road we might put in some type of filtration system to make sure it doesn't happen, but for now we've never had any kind of problem with it, and all works well. So that's the HydroHeart in a nutshell. I know it's confusing in the beginning, but once you get used to it and you start to build it and play, it actually is quite easy, and I think you'll enjoy it. So thanks for watching.